Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PBA at Noon. I'm Paul Benwell, and I'm joined by my colleague, Sophie Caesar. Today, we have with us Talisker, which trades on the TSX under the symbol TSX.T. Talisker is a junior resource company involved in the exploration of gold projects in British Columbia. Talisker's projects include the Bralorne Gold Complex, an advanced stage project with significant exploration potential from a historical high-grade producing gold mine, with all of their properties comprising 278,000 hectares, over 256 claims, 3 leases, and 198 Crown grant claims. Talisker is a dominant exploration player in South Central British Columbia. The company is well funded to advance its aggressive, systematic exploration program at this project. Here to tell us the recent progress on the Bralorne Gold is the CEO, Terry Harbort. Terry, welcome to PBA at Noon. And whenever you're ready, go ahead, and we will have some questions for you at the end. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Paul. Thanks very much for the invitation to come on, and good afternoon, viewers. As Paul's greatly introduced us there, we're in a very aggressive exploration program. Since we acquired the Bralorne asset, our flagship, in around about 2 years ago, we've put around about 140,000 meters of drilling into that project, heading towards our maiden resource. We expect to be building and releasing that maiden resource within the next couple of months. We're just finalizing the drilling on some of the veins. We put a release out just last week on an update on this. 11 of these veins are well defined, so we have enough pierce points to have them heading towards inferred category. So a lot of exciting stuff coming along, and really we see this maiden resource as a major catalyst for our company. It builds that baseline valuation that's so important.
Terry, is that okay if I share your screen for you and you just let me know when to change slides?
Sure, absolutely. We can
Okay.
work through it like that.
Awesome.
I'll just start there with the very first page, which is a good photograph of the veins that we're drilling out at Bralorne. These are orogenic style veins or mesothermal style veins for anyone who's geologically savvy. Basically, they're quartz veins. They've got long strike extent, and the average width that we're seeing of what we're drilling is about 1.6 meters, which is actually a little bit wider than what the historic veins that were mined. We also see some pretty good grades. You can see there the grade on the wall there, 71.6 grams, so about 2.5 ounces across that vein intercept. So beautiful high-grade veins. Move on to the next one, Sophie, if you like there. And the next one, some forward-looking statement document. So I'll just retouch on some of the key points. So although I think Paul did a pretty good introduction there into what the key points are in Talisker. The first one is that we're a well-funded group. We've got very strong institutional and strategic backing, and I'll talk in a couple of slides about who those groups are. That's a real key thing in junior mining exploration, because we're not miners, we don't produce gold, we need to look to the market for our funding, and it allows us to take our projects forward. Second key point is that we've got 2 fully permitted resource stage assets. Luckily, these assets are in a great jurisdiction, which I'll touch on as well. But we all know permitting timelines can take up to 5 years or beyond. So to have assets that already have a permit, a mining permit, major mines permit associated with them, it means they're very attractive for potential acquirers. So we've got 2 of these assets, which we'll talk about today. All excellent access to infrastructure are the assets that we have. They're all highway access. We work in South Central British Columbia, so there's very good access to all of our projects. Generally highways to each of them, or nothing's really more than half an hour drive from a major highway. That also gives us great opportunity to be able to toll mill in a future production scenario. So that greatly reduces that capex or that cost to get a project into production. So that's a really strong benefit. Very strong leadership in the company. We all come from a major company background, and we'll touch on that. We've got heading towards 60 million ounces now in discovery as a team. So very experienced exploration team, and also experienced board and advisors within the teams. All of our projects are 100% owned, and we like to compile district scale land packages. So no small areas where we're exploring. We like to consolidate entire mineral belts and entire mineral districts. So we work very hard to get that done, and that's a great advantage for the company. Paul also mentioned the pipeline. We're one of the largest single landholders in British Columbia, certainly one of the largest as a junior company, nearly 300,000 hectares. So we're actually doing major company style exploration, and we're building a long-term project pipeline for the company. The final thing, and probably the most important, is the jurisdiction. All of our assets are in British Columbia, so a top Canadian jurisdiction, very strong rule of law, very high ranking when it comes to exploration and putting things into production. So these are really the key points that sit behind Talisker as a company. Move on to the next one, Sophie, that'd be great. Now I'd like to zoom in or focus in on our flagship project, our Bralorne project, which we're heading towards that major milestone as a company in Q2 here, towards the end of Q2, our maiden resource, so our first resource at the project. So we've got a large amount of drilling already completed. I think we're heading now towards about 140,000 ounces since we acquired the project. We're drilling about 14 or 15 veins to that resource, but we've identified a lot of others, around 50 veins. So there's a lot of upside here beyond what we've already drilled. Everything we're drilling is quite shallow from surface. It's from surface to about 700 meters. So quite inexpensive ounces per meter drill cost. And the majority of what we're drilling is well away from the historic mining of the project. Very good metallurgical recoveries. Historically, at the historic project of Bralorne, it was about 90%. With modern technology, we're seeing that come up to above the mid-90s, about 96% recovery, with a large amount of free gold. So excellent metallurgy at Bralorne. Looking at upside, we've confirmed we've confirmed mineralization to depth beyond 2 kilometers from historic work. So a great deal of upside beyond that 700 meters that we've been exploring. Again, consolidated land package. It's a 14,000 hectare brownfields camp that we own 100% of. Over 47 gold occurrences along a 33-kilometer trend. So a clear pathway, we believe, to be able to take the project to that 5 million ounce potential. Next slide, thanks, Sophie. So what's the value proposition for Talisker? Well, we understand very well that there's very few advanced stage permitted or close to permitted projects, particularly in first world jurisdictions. So we believe that particularly the Bralorne asset is a very desirable acquisition target for intermediate and major companies, because there's not very many of these available. In Talisker, we've also got a lot of great secondary assets. Our Ladner project has already got a significant resource on it, almost 700,000 ounces there, so it's ready to expand. We're not valued at all on that asset, so that's a very good secondary valuation. We see large upside potential here to go to 5 million ounces and beyond. And really, we're coming into our resource, which we see as a major re-rate for the company. We don't have any resource at the moment, so we're not valued on anything. So having that baseline resource really builds into these valuations that we see from independent analysts. And we've got a couple of there, Sprott and PI Financial, that have those valuations that's well beyond our market price. So what the bottom line is, Talisker has a sought after, potentially long life, high grade asset that's permitted in a Canadian jurisdiction. So we're working through our major catalysts. We've already gone through some of these already this year. Anyone who's been following Talisker will see that we've had a lot of incredible drill results, high grade, good intercepts, and these will continue to come out over the next months as our results come in. We made our Golden Hornet discovery back in January. 14 holes we drilled in there, all of these with significant mineralization. And if we get time, we'll touch on a bit of that in the end. The big one coming in is our maiden resource estimate coming in Q2. And then beyond that, if we don't get acquired, we'll be looking to expand that resource at Bralorne and then looking at building a resource, our first one at the Ladner Gold Project. Next one, thanks, Sophie. Looking at our share structure here, you'll see we're majority held by institutional and strategic investors. So very strong shareholder base, some big names in there, Franklin Templeton, the Gold 2000 Group, Sprott US Fund, RBC, Merck. So a lot of very strong institutional shareholders, but also some very good strategic shareholders. The primary one here, which you'll see, is New Gold, who own a cornerstone stake of just under 15%. It's a very strategic play for New Gold. All of our assets are within truckable distance to their massive New Afton mill. New Afton's a large block cave near Kamloops in British Columbia. Next one, thanks. Touch very briefly here on our corporate management team, our leadership team. The key takeaways from this are that we're all big company trained, out of the likes of BHP, Anglo Gold, Anglo American. We're all very scientific, PhD and master's levels, and we take our exploration methodology very seriously. So it's a very serious group, and we build and mentor very strong young teams to be able to continue this project forward. And we see this leadership and this technical input into exploration to be one of the keys as why our group, our leadership team, has been so successful with nearly 60 million ounces discovered throughout the Americas over the last 20 years. Next one. And we'll move on. Very good executive, a very good board of directors here. We see them, a comical photo on the right-hand side, looking at a 563 gram per ton assay within one of the veins at Bralorne. So a very experienced leadership team on the board. Next one, thank you. So here's where we're located. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, Vancouver, the capital of British Columbia. You'll see that all of our projects are within several hours drive with major highways going up through each of these projects. Very large land package, nearly 300,000 hectares, focused in the middle there on the Spencer's Bridge Gold Project. We control about 85% of the Spencer's Bridge Gold Project. Many of you would be aware of the discovery by West Haven Ventures, now West Haven Gold, of the Shovel Nose Project down in the south. Recently released their maiden resource there of 1 million ounces and looking to expand that. So we've explored the Spencer's Bridge Gold Project very aggressively the last 3 years with 20 geologists in the field, several thousand stream sediments, identified a large number of anomalies, and we've taken a large suite of these up to drill stage. The first of these, the Nova Cyclone Cluster, we're in the permitting phase right now, and we hope to be drilling this in the second half of this year. Over to the right, you'll see the Golden Hornet Project. It was a discovery for us earlier this year. 14 holes with sulfide and silica and some very good intercepts that we've identified there, high-grade gold and some background about 0.5% copper as well. We'll touch briefly on that at the end. Next, coming back towards Vancouver, is the Ladner Gold Project. About 700,000 ounces already defined. Another district scale land package, about 14,000 hectares. And we'll be looking to explore and expand that to 1 million ounces indicated towards the end of this year. Today, we'll predominantly focus on the Bralorne Gold Project, which is directly north of Vancouver, where we've been conducting our major drill program over the last year and a half. Next slide, thanks. A little bit of the history of the Bralorne Project. Well, it's probably one of the most famous gold projects in British Columbia. It was a source of the Fraser River gold rush back in the 1860s. And there's been a long, over 100-year period of hard rock production. Sporadically at first in the 1880s and 1890s, but continuous from 1929 to 1971. There was 3 historic mines, Bralorne, King and Pioneer, and together as a group, they produced 4.2 million ounces at an average grade of 17.7 grams. So that's about 2,300 ounces per vertical meter. So this deposit was the highest grade, longest producing gold project in British Columbia. Really quite incredible production that came out of there. And what we've been drilling is extensions and newly discovered veins additional to the veins that were mined at Bralorne. A lot of people ask why the project closed down in the late 70s. Well, it all comes back to having the gold standard. And really for a long time, we had a fixed gold price. When the project closed, the gold price was $35 an ounce. That's about $220 per ounce in current dollar value. So now we're orders of magnitude up in the gold price. We're almost at just underneath the 2,000 or 1900 mark. So there's been a significant change in the economies of gold. So a lot more of what would not have been economic back in the 50s and the 60s is certainly economic now. Thanks, Sophie. Next one. So we're looking at here a long section through the 3 historic mines. And there's a scale bar at the top. You'll see that's a kilometre. So we're looking at about a 4-kilometre area or a 4-kilometre strike length. What we can see in the long section, we've got grey, which are mined out stopes. They're the historic areas where they mined. A lot of drifts, which are horizontal, and shafts, which are vertical. Sitting on top of that, you can see a lot of little dots. Those little dots that we can see are actual underground drift assay results. And they're color-coded. You can see the scale on the bottom left-hand side. What you can see is that there's a lot of red and purple dots and a lot of continuity, great continuity in these. And what we can see are areas that were never put into production. So these dots that you can see are unmined areas. So we've been targeting a lot of these areas and particularly in areas that are well away from the historic workings. So you can see in the area where there's that sits on the right-hand side, there's large blue areas, and they're our defined vein areas that are coming into our resource. What you can also see is a lot of untested areas where historically things have been sampled along drifts. And you can see on the left-hand side under what is the King mine, there's a significant amount there, nearly 1 kilometre worth of ore grade material that has never been tested. And certainly in the middle to the right-hand side, a large amount, and far to the right-hand side, a lot of purple dots. So a lot of high grade assay samples that have never been tested. And that's a lot of the upside that we can see with the Bralorne project. At the moment, we're just focused from surface to about 700 meters. So most of the blue vein areas that we're drilling out are very close to surface, but we've got a lot of potential underneath. And that's where we see this constrained view of taking the project to 5 million ounces. Next slide, thank you. Another great thing about the Bralorne Gold Project is the veins form in what are called an echelon set. So these are parallel structures. And we can see here across 400 meters, we've got 6 veins. So it creates great mineability because a miner can do a drive across and operate multiple fronts simultaneously. So it allows us to increase the volume of production very, very significantly. Also, the excellent continuity. We see here 800 meters on the left-hand side of that scale. So we see that these are very continuous structures, and along strike, we see them continuous for up to 2 kilometers. So very key things that add to the mineability of the project. Next slide, thank you. So here are some examples of some of the long sections, and there's some actually updated ones that were just put out to market last week when we gave an update on our resource progress. So what we can see is large panels developed here of ore grade material. Almost 400 meters by 500 meter continuous panels of vein material with ore grade. So the resource development is going very well, and we're very excited about our progress towards that maiden resource. Thanks, Sophie. Next one. Aside from what we're drilling now, I just want to make it clear to everyone that there's actually district scale upside here. We're looking at just a 4 or 5 kilometer segment of the entire Bralorne Gold Belt. Really, it's about 30 to 33 kilometers long, and Talisker holds all of the mineral claims along this trend. So there's a lot of brownfields targets that are waiting to be tested. Some of these are the BRX, which you can see on the map on the right-hand side, which is just north of the Bralorne Gold Project. We've drilled our preliminary holes in there with the first one was a 10-ounce result. So very good intercept. And also the Congress project, which sits to the north, that has a historic resource of about 200,000 ounces at 9 grams. So a lot of potential to take these brownfields targets that can add to the Bralorne core project that we're exploring now. Next slide. So we've been able to establish that the Bralorne Gold Project's got excellent structural and grade continuity. We're drilling off a great resource now that's very robust. But one of the key things that makes Bralorne stand out is the infrastructure that we see. Direct highway access in from Vancouver. We've also got an airstrip about 20 to 30 minutes drive away. It's already got an active major mines permit, M207, which is the permit there, a maintained tailings dam, water discharge permits, and no acid mine drainage. So some really key permitting and environmental components. It's already got direct grid power connection, a 1500 kVA line. Wouldn't matter too much if it didn't, because there are a couple of hydro plants very close to the Bralorne project. And about 9% of British Columbia's electricity comes out of the valley where Bralorne's located. We've got a state-of-the-art water treatment facility that treats the water and is permitted to discharge direct into environment after treating. A fully operational camp and kitchen. We've got capacity to house about 130 persons at the camp. A large land package that we've said, great metallurgy. Historically, it was about 90%. About 65% came out of gravity, so very easy to process. And our new metallurgical work has taken those recoveries up to 96%. We've also been able to very quickly sign key Indigenous and community agreements. Our First Nation partners, Hoist and Era, the traditional owners of the area, are great supporters and shareholders within Talisker Resources. Next slide, please. So that gives us a pretty good background on Bralorne itself, but I'd like to talk about the other components of Talisker Resources and the fact that we're doing a bit more than just having one flagship asset going to resource. We're actually developing a significant project pipeline by building a project pyramid that can bring projects forward up to resource stage. And as we develop projects and on-sell projects, we want to have one in the gun to ready to come out, ready to go to resource right after this. And we've had a very strong M&A activity over the last 2 to 3 years. We've only been a company for 3 years, so we've had a lot of activity to be able to mass this great project base, this great asset base that you see here before you. And many of these are working through the progress. We've got a large number of drill projects, and many of these are working towards the permitting stage. And I'll just touch on the Ladner Gold project, which is actually has a major mines permit, and we're looking to build a significant resource there in the background, in addition to Bralorne. Next slide, thanks. So the Ladner Gold project, there's a large number of small historic mines, 5 historic mines where there was some extraction, and there's an additional 24 known gold occurrences throughout this belt. The resource that we have at the moment is just under 700,000 ounces, so a great base to start building on. A major mines permit here, and 138 is the major mines permit. It's for 1,300 tonnes a day. A large land package here, so a lot of scope to make new discoveries in this area. And really, we believe this whole Coquihalla Gold Belt is actually quite underexplored. So we're hopeful that we can make significant new discoveries by doing systematic exploration. We've got a large geological database here, over 600 drill holes, about 50,000 meters that we can work with, and we're building now to build a good compliant database. Good metallurgy here again. Historically, we see up to nearly 95% recovery, so no problems there. And great infrastructure here. Famously, the Ladner Gold Project has its own exit off the Coquihalla Highway. Really incredible access, well-maintained tailings facility, power and water easily available. Great access here. Next slide, thanks. And finally, I'd like to touch on the Golden Hornet discovery. Really quite incredible, and this is our 3rd tier with Bralorne at the top, Ladner 2nd, Golden Hornet's the 3rd one, and it's just come to discovery phase, high-grade fault-controlled silica sulfide breccias here. Let's have a look at some of these incredible results. 8.88 grams per tonne, 0.42% copper, and nearly 15 grams per tonne silver over 5 meters in one of our holes. It was in a broad section of 2.56 grams per tonne over 21 meters. Another one of our holes here at Golden Hornet, 11.58 grams per tonne gold, 0.37% copper, and 11 grams silver over a meter. Another one, nearly 10 grams, 9.99 grams per tonne gold, within a larger zone, over 10 meters. So we're seeing some very interesting intercepts here. We've still got a lot of work to do. It's very early stages, but what we're very happy to say and very proud to say is our first 14 holes at the Golden Hornet project all intersected significant mineralization. So we were very excited about this new discovery down at Golden Hornet. Next slide. Right, thank you very much, everyone. Paul, I'll hand it over to you, or Sophie, if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Terry. It was a wonderful presentation. All right, so let's get started here. All right, are you having, okay, they're a little bit all over the place, so bear with me.
Sure,
are you having any trouble getting enough employees? Manpower?
No, we aren't. We saw last year, we saw some issues with a large boom in the mining space. Things have certainly cooled down this year. We have a very strong team, and the team generally stay with us. So we've got a low turnover rate of our geologists. And we offer a lot of professional development. So our geologists are generally key to stay on. As we don't have a big population base locally, some of the unskilled or lower skilled positions are a bit harder to fill, but luckily they're all quite filled at the moment, and we can continue at the rate we're at.
Oh, that's excellent. Why did Avino Silver sell out?
Well, it was a very interesting time, and a very different time to now. Avino had held it in multiple hands for probably 40 years, originally acquired by the current CEO, David, by his father, Lou. And it had had various incantations and worked through various companies within their group. When we came along as Talisker, I guess Avino was having a relatively tough time. The silver price was very low, much lower than it is now, around $14, $15 an ounce. Things were tough at their Mexican project with this very low price, and they were struggling to be cash flow positive. They had a call on some of their debt that was coming up. And also they'd put some time and effort into the mining at Bralorne. They'd been mining for about 6 years. Around the 2015, Mount Polly occurred. Following Mount Polly, everyone had a review in British Columbia. Everyone had to upgrade their tailings dams, and that was part of Avino had to put about $30 million into rectifying deficiencies in their tailings dam. They had to upgrade their water treatment plant. That cost about $5 million. And they had to do more exploration without a very strong vein technical team. So really, it was a whole combination of issues and timing in the market for Avino. I think if we had have come along now with the current gold price, Avino never would have sold. But at the time, it was a win-win situation where we were able to acquire a great asset, and Avino was able to deal very successfully with some of their other issues.
Okay, good to hear. What is free gold? And in brackets, they put 65%, if you could elaborate.
Absolutely. So free gold is gold that is readily available within the rock. So sometimes gold can get bound up inside of other minerals or be very associated with other minerals. What's great about Bralorne, and one of the reasons why it was a great project historically for so long, is that there's a lot of what we call free gold. So that's gold that liberates in a gravity circuit. So you basically crush up the rock and you spin it around and it separates out. And magically, we see visible gold almost every day in the core.
Right.
So, and it can be in little veins or big veins. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. So your funding, how far is that going to take you?
So we anticipate that it'll take us right through into resource. We've actually reduced the number of drill rigs that we've had as we're coasting into that resource. Early this year, we had 9 drill rigs. We've reduced that down to 6, and now we're reducing that down to 3. So our available funding is basically stretching out for the next 3 to 4 months. And now we're basically running our resource numbers and iteratively planning our holes so we can get the best value for our drilling and increase where we need to increase it at the best. So it's a lot of work for our modeling team to do it like that, but it means we can be incredibly efficient with the capital we have and the drill placement.
Well, which is great. It brings me to my next question. So how much more drilling do you anticipate in the near future?
So coming into our resource, we're in the home straight, if you like. So coming into completing that, we anticipate anywhere from 10 to sort of 15,000 meters to finish what we're doing now. So really coming into the end of it, we always anticipated it'd take us about 150,000 meters. And the outcome's looking pretty good. It's looking like about 10 ounces per meter
Wow.
in our drill rates. So it's actually turned out very well. Yeah.
So, and here's another question. Is the drilling being done by your team or is it being outsourced?
So we don't have any drill rigs. We manage the project in-house, and all our geologists log it and we process the core. But we've got two drill companies in. One is Foraco, which is a multinational French-based drill company, been around a long time, very professional. And we brought them in very early on when we were looking at very deep targets, because they're specialists in directional drilling. And we also have a locally based drill company called Atlas Drilling, who's worked at Bralorne previously and worked for us in our other exploration programs. So we diversify risk there by having two groups in.
Okay, excellent. I see Paul's joined us. Paul, do you have a couple of questions for Terry?
Yep, just a couple of questions so we can wrap this up. You've got such a large land package. Have you considered, or are you considering joint venturing out part of your projects or part of the properties?
Yes, at the moment, or up until now, we've been able to handle all the exploration ourselves. We've been able to distribute our assessment requirements across the whole board, and we can actually hold them relatively cheaply. But it's really coming to the point now where we're almost at the capacity of what we can simultaneously explore. So certainly that's something we'll be considering, and looking for the right partners. So a good intermediate or major company that can help to fund that. We think we've got an excellent technical team, probably one of the best technical teams in the business. So we'd probably still manage those projects, but we'd certainly look for external funding for those.
Okay. Excuse me, you said earlier that you have mills around you. Would you ever consider starting to mine a little bit and like shipping it off so that you could finance your future drilling programs and, to really enhance the project?
Yes, Paul, that's an excellent idea, which we're actually starting to investigate now. We're looking at ore characterization for the new Afton mill, owned by New Gold. So we're just in the process there. We've taken a relatively big sample of some of the material, and what the idea is to figure out the gold deportment and actually run it through the circuit of that toll mill. So it's a quite simplistic thing where you'd mine and do an ore sale. So you'd sell the ore as it's leaving the site and truck it out to there. So it was something we looked at very early on. We don't have a mining team, so we would have to contract out the mining team, but we look at some profit sharing arrangement with that, and it's certainly something we're going to visit now that we've really just basically a few steps away from having a major project. Luckily for us, there's great access into starting these mines. There's a lot of existing adits and portals, and very close to surface to get some of this high-grade material. So yeah, look, we aren't miners, but it's certainly something that could help us be able to continue to explore.
Well, okay, I've got one final question. You've got so much drill results, historical from the other properties not there. When is a 43-101 or your resource estimate going to come out? And can you use all of that previous drilling, or do you have to re-drill twin holes, that kind of stuff?
So we have, in total, I think it's about 500,000 meters that have been drilled historically at Bralorne and with our new work. Unfortunately, much of this is very old. It was either assayed at the mine site, so it's not independent, was before a lot of quality control was done. So we can't really use any of that for resource. We can certainly use it for targeting, and we use predominantly a lot of underground drift assays, so exploration drifts, so they drive out and hit the veins. So we use a lot of that for targeting, but can't use it for resource, but it's a good guide. I think we've got about 300,000 meters that is compliant or is our new stuff that we can use. Most of our drilling's actually been in the new areas where there wasn't any historic drilling. And probably about a bit over 60 to 65% of our resource is actually brand new areas that we're drilling out. So that's about the volume of meters that we could use to get to that resource. We're planning to have our resource statement out, so not the 43-101, but the resource statement here sometime around the end of Q2 or very early in Q3. And then there's about a 45-day window to submit the 43-101.
Yep.
But we're well advanced on the 43-101. We're working at that in the background. Our external independent QP is a company called Innovo Explo out of Valdor. They're very experienced with these type of veins. So we're probably about, I guess, 50% or so of the way through the preparation of the 43-101. And as we've been doing preliminary vein models and preliminary resource models, we actually have a lot of material that we've already passed to them. So we don't have to wait right till the end. We can pass things and get that validated very early on in our resource process.
And one final question, what's the turnaround time for getting drill results? Is it backed up where you are, or is it normal, back to normal?
No, look, it's come back to normal. Last year we had some horrible turnarounds. One lab up to 3 months, another lab up to 5 months.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
I know everyone suffered that. Our primary laboratory at the moment has a maximum, I think we're a 28-day turnaround at the moment. So excellent times at the moment. And I hope it stays like that. We'll see what happens when the North gets back into exploration. But as our assays are more or less in the lab now, and we're winding up our drill program, I think we'll probably miss that boom up north.
Gotcha. Terry, fantastic project. You've got a lot of work to do, and you've got a lot of results that are going to be coming in. So we will be following you for the next little while, putting in all your press releases, make sure we keep everybody up to speed on what's going on. Thanks again for your time. Much appreciated. Thanks to everybody who attended. Things are getting back to normal in the country. Maybe the next time I meet you, Terry, it'll be in person and we can do something about that.
I think that'll be lovely, Paul. Sophie, thank you very much.
Thank you. Best of luck with the project. Bye-bye.